Do not adjust your digital device. What you are about to see and hear may shock and appall you. Join our hosts as they encounter countless thrills, spills, chills, and hilarity as they explore the very weirdest in pop culture. The following media is so strange, so beyond the scope of what is normal, it will make you ask the question, why does this exist? Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Why Does This Exist? I'm Chris.
And I'm Rob.
And Happy New Year to all of you. This is our first show of 2024. We're going to break our bigathon with this. We have decided that we just don't want to do any more movies with the title big in them, so we are just going to do the one that we had planned on ending it on to begin with, Big with Tom Hanks. Excuse me, I've got a cough. But if you've got well, let me just do a quick rundown. It's been a couple of weeks, so I haven't been practicing my monologues as normally as I do. But we are Why Does This Exist? We're a podcast that talks about weird things in pop culture, whether it be a movie like we're about to do, some music that we just did with Trans-Siberian Orchestra, or anything else for that matter. We discuss it, and we just hopefully you learn something, or maybe you laugh a little bit and you have a good time. There's a few ways that you can support the show if you like what we're doing, or you could just tell somebody you don't like about to do these things and make them think that it's a good idea to support us instead. Excuse me. So what you can do is the easiest way to support the show is to just listen to it. That's wherever you get your podcasts. Or the better way to do that is if you're listening to Spreaker specifically, we get more money that way. So maybe do that. You can also support us by giving us physical money on Patreon. That's patreon.com/whydoesthisexist. We also have articles that go up every now and then by our man Tony. If you don't want to support us, support Tony. You can also just simply give us money one time. You can buy us coffee. Now, if you support the Patreon, you can you'll get access to the Discord server, and you can come and hang out and just find out what's on our agenda. You can pitch ideas to us. You could probably even write something if you want to, and we'll do whatever it is. You could give us as little as $1. It doesn't matter. Patreon.com/whydoesthisexist, or you can give us money one time with buy me a coffee. That's buymeacoffee.com/whydoesthisexist. All you got to do is just give us whatever you want, and that's that. Go on your merry way. You can also follow us on social media. We don't really do social media too much, but we're on the Twitter or the X somehow. We never check it, so don't know how wise that is, but if it's still around, it's Twitter or x.com/WDTEpod, Facebook.com/whydoesthisexist, or just go on to our YouTube channel. You'll just find us, Why Does This Exist? And do all of the things to interact with our videos and stuff. And that's good and dandy. You can also just say hello at whydoesthisexistshow@gmail.com. Or if you would like to sponsor the show, hit us up there and we'll talk. All right. Coughing hack aside. That's the news. Here's the weather. You are now about to witness the strength of street knowledge from a ragtag group of rogues. So let's get on with the goddamn show. We're talking about Big, the 1988 family movie, rated PG, that says fuck and asshole.
Well, that Beetlejuice is PG and also said fuck, so I think
yes, it did.
The 80s were just the Wild West of the MPAA.
No, it really was. But to be clear, they did originally remove the F word from the theatrical releases, and then later in the 2007 extended version and just the remastered version that they released in 2007, they added the F bomb back into the movie.
So I wonder if Big is now currently the only thing that's on Disney Plus that has the F word in it.
Uh,
It might actually be the
it
only
could be.
movie or TV show on Disney Plus that has an uncensored F bomb, because
Hmm.
there is a Gordon Ramsay show on National Geographic on Disney Plus, which he curses, but it's obviously censored. Um, but yeah, Big might be the only actual like fuck on Disney Plus as of right now. So there you go.
That's funny.
Yeah, it's like the most random, because it's not a movie you would expect for them to drop an F word in. It's a pretty
No,
movie.
I was very surprised the first when I heard it today.
It it
Um,
it, it almost
I
if it
didn't
was
remember that. I
if
didn't
it,
remember a lot about this movie.
I've actually never seen this movie, so I might have seen like bits and pieces of it, but I've never actually watched it from start to finish. So this
I
is
had
my
seen it
first
as a
time.
kid, and this movie introduced me and probably a lot of people to FAO Schwartz,
Yes.
which it was the best advertising that that company could have ever gotten. And
Yeah.
I think like maybe a few weeks after that, or whenever I watched it, shortly after was the first time that we went to FAO Schwartz, or at least that I had, and I couldn't believe how great that and crazy that store was.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool store. I've
I
been there
wish
a
it
couple
was
times.
I wish it was still there. I wish the original store was there. Um
There is a new FAO Shorts.
it's not the same.
I haven't been in the new store since they reopened. I don't know what it's like inside, but yeah, it's not the same. Like you're right. Like the original was like for a kid that was like, like the dream world. Like it was like the idyllic like toy store where like you would see in like, well, obviously you see in a movie because it's featured in Big, but like it's like the toy store of like every kid's dreams, basically. Like the amount of toys that they had and displays, and you know it's a crazy store. So yeah,
It was it was just huge.
yeah,
They had everything there.
multiple floors. They had a whole room dedicated to Legos. So
Yeah,
like literally any Lego set you could ever want, they had it.
yeah, there was nothing that there was nothing that you couldn't imagine
Yeah. It
that
was
was in that
incredibly
store.
expensive, I will say
Oh
that.
yeah, everything in that. Well, I think that was one of the big issues. Was not
Yeah.
only was why it went out of business. Was not only that a lot of the toys, most of the toys, were expensive,
Yes.
but they did also. I mean, it also was just a tough time for the toy industry as people started to gravitate more towards video games. I remember,
Yeah.
I believe Nintendo World had originally set up in the basement of FAO Schwartz
Mhm.
before they moved to their own location in Rockefeller Center, where they still are,
Yeah.
where is down the street from the new FAO Schwartz. It's not the same. It's nice that it's there in some capacity. The big piano that you see in Big
Yeah.
is still there. Um, I think it's roped off now.
It is roped off. It has always been roped off. Like them walking up to it in Big was, I believe, just for the movie, because I don't think they want people to like walk on it and break it. So
No,
it
as a kid, I you were allowed to do it. When I went as a kid, you were still allowed to
see
walk on the piano.
when I went as a kid, it was roped off, and they had like the people that worked at the store would do uh like exhibitions of it.
Mm. Yeah, later on I would see that. But
I
when
think
I was
maybe
a
you had to get
kid,
special permission if you wanted to actually try it out or something.
maybe, or maybe the wait just got so long and
That's possibly
and the
true.
mate and like people kept breaking it and the maintenance for it became too much where they were just
Yeah.
only let certain store employees do it.
Yeah, that could be. I mean, FAO Schwartz, it was at its like prime, was visited by, especially around the holiday season. It was like the stop. Like, if you were going to the city for the holidays, you would go, see the tree, and then you'd go to FAO Schwartz. It was like just like a standard thing. And So you gotta think there's like thousands of people a day walking through the store, and I'm sure like the piano probably just couldn't take
Poss-
that many people walking in there.
Possibly tens of thousands during
Yeah,
the holidays.
yeah,
Yeah. Um, and they used to do these cool like little museum exhibits too, and they would build out the back of the back entrance of the store a little bit to
yeah,
contain these exhibits. Like I remember when the Phantom Menace was coming out, they had a huge exhibition for that, and it was all of these never before seen costumes from the movie before it came out, and all of these sound and like how they did the sound effects and all of these like different these different memorabilia from the original Star Wars movies,
yeah,
and it was so cool.
yeah,
And then of course you went back and it ended with like this giant you went to the back and like there was this giant Star Wars section that it
yeah.
wrapped up in because of
Yep.
course it did with all the new toys and everything. And
Yeah.
then you went through the rest of the store, but
I
it was
remember
just the coolest thing ever. I
going
miss
there.
that whole store so much.
Yeah, I remember going there in high school, and they had a teddy bear that was the size of an actual bear.
Yes.
So like, and it was like $1,200 or something ridiculous like that. But it was like, imagine being a kid and having a bear like that in your room. Like, obviously, it was like a rich people. It was like a rich kid store. It's like we're all like the rich people
Yeah.
with their kids' toys. Like, but like when us little peons went there, it was like cool just to like see it and imagine.
Yeah.
Uh, but
Yeah,
anyway,
very
big,
fun times.
yeah,
But big, well, as if the store wasn't already on the map, Big solidified it on the
yes,
map. Like if only people in New York and tourists knew about FAO Schwartz, the whole world knew now.
yeah, yeah. That's definitely for sure. And I mean, Big is kind of like one of those iconic '80s movies.
Sadly now it's an Apple store, FAO Schwartz, which depressing. But anyway, back to Big.
Yeah. It's one of those iconic '80s movies that, like, most people like. If you're like listing off like, oh, '80s movies you got to watch, Big is usually on the list.
Yeah.
Like I said, I never really watched it. I saw bits and pieces as a kid, but never like watched it straight through. I remember like specifically like the piano scene in FAO Schwartz,
Oh
which
yeah.
is probably the most famous scene in the movie. But the basic premise is like a kind of a be careful what you wish for story, but also,
A
you know,
cautionary tale of the Zoltar machine.
yeah, the Zoltar. Which is like the creepiest friggin' thing in the movie by far.
It is a
It's like
real
the
machine.
scariest.
I have seen one.
I always thought that he is at Coney Island when he
A lot
sees
of
the
people
Zoltar
think
machine,
that.
but
A
it's
lot of
actually not. It's just like a fair, like, or like a carnival in his
yeah,
hometown in Cliffside Park, New Jersey. So I get the hooray of a friggin' movie that's actually takes place in New Jersey. Um,
partially.
yeah, well, Manhattan, New Jersey.
Yeah.
Uh, so Josh Baskin's this 12-year-old kid, and he is kind of like a scrawny little kid, and he's trying to impress this girl, so he tries to ride this ride at the carnival, and he gets denied because he's too short. So he finds the Zoltar
We've all
machine.
been there.
Yeah. he he finds the Zoltar machine and makes a wish to be big. And it's like, again, this like creepy like fortune teller that is like opening and closing his mouth, and he has glowing eyes, and I guess you have to try to get the quarter in his mouth for your wish to come true.
Think of Jafar as a sex slave.
Yeah. So he gets the wish, and the card pops out, says your wish is granted, and then he notices that the machine's unplugged. So it's a freaking SCP basically at this point. It's like an anomalous artifact. And little did he know that his wish was granted, because
Yes, in
he
a
wakes
bizarre
up
monkey's paw type of way.
exactly. He wakes up the next morning as an adult, and as a 30-year-old man, played by Tom Hanks.
This is
And
why you have to when you're asking the universe for things, You have to be very specific. The more detailed, the better.
I think this was like Tom Hanks's like breakout role. I think it's one of his.
I want to say it was the one that put him on the map, and
He wasn't
I
Dragnet like before that, but which I don't know how successful Dragnet was, but
he had done a bunch of like comedies of like varying like of success between like none to mediocre success,
yeah,
but this was the one that really like bumped him up the ladder. And oddly enough, Robert De Niro was originally cast for this in
yeah,
that role, and he had
really.
he had a
That
scheduling conflict.
that would have been interesting with
That would
Robert
have
De
been
Niro.
a very different
It would have
movie.
been a very different movie indeed. Uh, I want to say too that like if it wasn't for the comedy aspects of this movie, this could almost be an episode of like Law and Order SVU because like he wakes
Yes,
up in his parent like in his house. His mother thinks he's a freaking like burglar, and then like
and
he's missing because he's like an adult, so he has to
right,
run away, and they
he's
think he's
trying.
kidnapped.
He's also trying to explain to his mother who he is, and she won't listen to him
Yeah,
because she's freaking out. And then he like tries to flash her because he like tries to show her a birthmark,
yeah,
and it like does not end well. This is a comedy, by the way,
yeah,
and and then he tries to go to school, but so that he could tell his friend what happened, and his friend is like horrified and is like thinks that's the
yeah.
worst thing is going to happen to him
Yeah, it
until
thinks
he
it's like a freaking
convinces him.
evil molester or something for
Yeah,
broke into the school.
which like a realistic reaction. Kids should act that way when something like that
Yeah,
happens.
stranger danger.
Yeah, but not to mention his friend is a terrible basketball player.
Yeah. Yeah, is he like like he says he's open, but then he's like I thought he was like shooting against his own basket for a second. Like cuz like no one
That's
was
what I
around
thought
him.
too. I guess
I don't
because
know.
I guess he just stayed over there
Yeah.
because like what chance did he have?
Yeah. Yeah, so I don't that was interesting.
But he
So
couldn't make a shot anyway. He's worse
no,
than
he was
I am.
terrible.
He's
Yeah,
worse
he
than
is
I am.
worse
I'm
than I
quite
am.
bad.
I'm awful. That's why I don't play basketball. I've basketball's a tall people sport and I've never been tall, so
Well, there you go. I only play with my friends, and they're mostly tall, but I very rarely get anything open. I pretty much just pass to somebody who's open, and maybe I get lucky every now and then. But my friends are like of varying skill levels, so it's not the worst. But yeah, maybe I play ball once or twice a year at best.
yeah.
So yeah, not for me, and not for his ginger friend.
No. No.
Anyway,
Bad. Uh so he's able to convince his friend uh who's what is his name? Billy, right? Yeah.
yeah, of course
So
his name is Billy.
his friend Billy, Josh and
It's
Billy, the most
it's
two like
always the
typical
Billies.
yeah, typical 80s like friggin' preteen boys names. uh so he's able to like sing like their little like song that they always sing, and that convinces him that it's actually Josh. So they decide to try to like figure out what they're gonna do. I think they steal money from Josh's parents so he could get an apartment in New York City.
No,
And he
from
lives in
Billy.
like
No, from Billy's dad.
oh they do okay, it was from Billy's dad. I thought he stole it from Josh's dad.
No, he steals it from his dad's drawer because he's like, "This is the emergency money." He's like, "Yeah, but it's your dad's," and he's like, "Well, what? Well, this is an emergency, right?
Yeah.
How? Like, what else could this be?" And he ends up going to this like the sleaziest motel you ever saw.
Yeah, it's like
In
literally like the worst part of Manhattan possible. It's like probably Alphabet City or something.
no, it's Old Times Square.
Well, yeah, 80s Times
before
Square.
before Giuliani came in and cleaned it up. And
Yeah.
well, Giuliani, which for context, Giuliani was a good mayor.
Yeah.
He
Well,
just revealed how crazy he was recently.
you either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain, I guess.
Yes, and that's what happened to him.
Yep.
Anyway, just a history
he's
lesson for
Two-Face.
some of you.
He's Two-Face in real life.
I guess.
Yeah, so he's in like literally there's like gunshots, like there's people getting murdered on the street right outside of his window. And so yeah, so he's stuck there and he realizes okay, he's got to get a job because he needs to get some kind of money, but he's a 12-year-old trapped in a 30-year-old's body, so he has no idea what to do for a living. Didn't go to college, didn't even finish high school, didn't even get into high school yet.
No.
So the only thing that he really is good at is computers because he plays computer games at his house on like an Apple II or something, some 80s ass computer. And so he decides to get a data entry job at the Macmillan Toy Company because it was available. And he basically, he bullshits his resume, which, he's like really like, he's really like giving us like the millennial experience here.
Yeah.
Like embellish
There's
your
a-
resume to try to get a shitty ass job that really is entry level, but they're saying you need at least 3 years experience. Like, like
Yeah, and there's a lot of plot holes in this movie, but that's okay. It only takes place over the course of 6 weeks.
yeah. Yeah, so they find out that the Zoltar machine, they could get like a record of where it's gone, but they have to wait 6 weeks for some reason.
Because the government is slow.
Right. I don't know why the government has a record of all the Zoltar machines. Like, I don't know how that.
I don't even know how they would know. I don't know how they would need to like. How would How would they even track down that specific one?
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. Maybe for tax purposes or something, they have to keep track of how much.
I guess, but like, what would the serial number even be on that? And on top of that, it's the Zoltar machine is like on the outskirts of the fairgrounds, and like it's not even plugged in.
Well,
so,
yeah,
like,
it's like a cursed item, so it's like, how the hell did they even track it anyway?
Yeah, it's like, who's to say that the Zoltar machine even was part of the fair?
It's a cursed anomalous thing.
I mean, they do go back to the fairground, but the Zoltar machine is not there. Well, so that's how they find out that they have to do it.
He literally goes back to the fairgrounds the next day, and they're cleaned up. So, like, again, like, what happened there? Like, the fair just like mysteriously disappears. Like,
I mean, they could have gone on the
ghost fair.
They could have just gone on the last night of the fair, and then like they cleaned up and moved out that quickly. Like, maybe the fair ended at 10, and then like and then by like 6 a.m. they got out. Yeah. It's possible.
Yeah. So he gets this job at the toy company doing like monkey work basically, and eventually he meets the owner, who's played by Robert Loggia.
Yes.
This movie's got two, or Loggia. I don't know.
Loggia? I think it's Loggia. Feech LaManna is the
LaManna, and also John Hurd, aka Detective Vin Makazian from The Sopranos, has a prominent role in this movie. So,
oh yeah.
He was also the dad on Home Alone, but I think it's better to remember people by their role in Sopranos than by any other role they were in.
Yeah, because he was a shit dad as Mr. McAllister. How do you leave your kid home alone like that?
Twice. Also, and this is a question that's been asked multiple times. What the hell does he do that they could live in an affluent suburb of Chicago in that giant ass mansion on one income, and go to Paris for Christmas or Florida?
It must be nice.
And take the whole family.
Maybe it's
the whole extended family.
Maybe it's the same guy, and he ended up replacing the Macmillan Toy Company after the events of this movie and renamed it the McAllister Toy Company, and there you go.
I think Mr. McAllister is into some dirty money. Maybe he's in the carton and waste management business.
Maybe he is. It's unclear.
So he plays John Hurd, Paul Davenport, who's like this executive at the toy company that is like for some reason like severely threatened by Josh, like unexplainably, like just like immediately threatened, and thinks he's like, and I guess rightfully so, because Josh ends up basically stealing his job and stealing his woman. So maybe he had some. It wasn't unfounded.
He's got a good reason eventually, but like he just dislikes him right away because he like because like Josh ends up getting this like data processing job next to John Lovitz, who is a perv, and this was back in the day when office romance was not frowned upon. It was
He was like
probably
encouraged.
it was pretty much encouraged. Um, so it was very different. So there's certain things that people today would see and they would be like, "Wait, really?" But these things happened anyway. Um, he just happens to be in FAO Schwartz on like a Saturday or something, and he bumps into his boss where Josh is just being himself, a 12-year-old
Yeah.
year old kid, playing with other children in the store. Not questionable at all. Um,
Well, it's funny
and
that the boss is also there, like, because he's trying to do like market research, basically. Like he's going there to see like what the kids are playing with and stuff like that.
right, which
But
that's understandable.
yeah, and Josh like actually like is it's actually pretty good because he like he's got the mind of a child, so he's able to like immediately like latch on and like and basically like go through the boss and be like, oh yeah, this is a cool toy. This one sucks. This one sucks. This one's cool. And the boss is like, oh shit, like this guy knows his shit somehow.
Yeah. And so like he impresses him and that leads to the famous piano scene,
Yep.
which according to Robert Loggia, when they filmed the scene, um, him and Tom Hanks show up to film the scene, and then they see the stunt doubles like dressed like them, so that they like just in case they couldn't do the arrangement,
Hmm.
and they looked at each other and they were like, "Oh no, they're not using stunt doubles for this. We have to do. We're doing the whole number."
Yeah.
So and they did, and that's what was in the movie, and I think it would have been. I think it's best as is with the real actors.
Yeah. And
Because
they, of
otherwise,
course,
with the stunt doubles, they have to shoot it a certain way, and it. I think it keeps the magic in the wide angle shot of them doing everything.
yeah. And of course, they play the two like most basic piano riffs that every person who's done piano lessons learns, which is Heart and Soul and Chopsticks.
Yep.
And I guess that really makes the most sense for like that scene because it's like that basically like what are there like you can't really do anything complex on the piano because it's like it's you're have to play with your feet. So maybe
Yeah.
this was I was thinking to myself during that scene, especially when they were doing chopsticks and they were getting like really fast. I'm like, I wonder if this is the inspiration for Dance Dance Revolution.
Ah, that's possible. That wouldn't surprise me. I bet you that there's like, I bet you that somebody's like just done a bunch of different like YouTube videos where they've just like rearranged, where they've just like thrown in a bunch of like incredibly complex music
Yeah,
to just like make it to just make it hilarious. I'm sure that exists.
yeah, I'm sure.
But yeah, that's a good point. I wonder, like, I would, if we ever do a DDR episode, that would be something to research
Yeah,
because that's not that wouldn't surprise me at all.
yeah.
But anyway,
So
so he impresses his boss
yeah,
by doing this, and he gets on well with him. And the next day,
he gets invited to
he
the
gets a
meeting,
yeah,
the big
and then
meeting.
yeah, and then he gets a big promotion because he like upstages the guy Paul because
Yeah,
he's just like, this toy sucks,
yeah,
and it's a toy that he designed, I guess.
yeah,
And he's like does all this market research on it. And he's like, why couldn't you just? It's like a building that transforms into a robot, and he's just like, why can't it just be it? Why can't the robot turn it as something else?
yeah,
Like something that kids want to actually play with. No one wants to play with a building. You can destroy the building, sure, but no one wants to actually play with the building. And he's like having difficulty like putting it together. The parts are falling off on the prototype. And he's just like, this isn't fun at all.
yeah. Yeah, so his proposal actually gets picked up and then he becomes like a big executive at the company. He gets promoted to from like this like peon job of data entry to vice president of product development in like a day.
Yeah. And he ends up
Uh
getting like this big office of this guy who left the company fairly recently that they hadn't replaced.
yeah. And so meanwhile, he gets invited to all these executive parties and stuff like that now because he's a big shot and that's when he meets Susan,
He
who is
also
the
gets a really kick-ass apartment.
yeah, he gets like a giant. It's like a I guess it's technically a studio, but like it's like a giant studio apartment, which is like the size of like a whole floor of a building. So it's like you can like skateboard through it. It's like that episode of Simpsons where Bart gets his own apartment and he has like a skate park in his apartment.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Uh, and because it's like in like the top of an old factory or something, and then Tony Hawk comes. That was a good episode.
Yeah, I think that was the 300th episode.
Yeah. Uh, so it's basically like that. It's like a giant ass like fucking gymnasium sized apartment, and he of course fills it with like everything that a kid could ever want, like a trampoline and bunk beds and all this other
The
cool stuff.
trampoline is a terrible idea because he puts it right next to the window, so like anybody could just die.
Yeah, well, that's half the fun.
I guess.
All while this is going on, he catches the attention of Susan, who's the ex-girlfriend of Paul. So John Hurd's Paul was actually like right in his fears of
Yeah.
Josh.
He does point out that she had like a trail of other executives at the company that she had
Yes,
like
yeah,
dated.
she seems to like just go through with everybody at the fucking company. I guess she's like, the office skank or something.
No, John Lovitz points out who that is.
Oh, that's true. That's right. But so she ends up like they
Like
go to this party.
I guess he's trying to say, I guess what Paul is trying to say is that she like sleeps her way to the top or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not cool, by the way.
No. But,
We don't like Paul, but whatever. And it's in the movie. Nothing I can do about it.
This was the 80s, so
This also was the 80s. Times were different. Things were viewed
80s.
differently. Anyway.
So they go home, like they're at this party. They go home together in a limo, and this is, of course, in the other probably the other big famous scene of the movie is Josh like standing up out the sunroof of the limo, while driving down the streets of Manhattan. I think that's probably the second, like, if the piano scene is the most memorable, this is probably the other most memorable scene that everyone like thinks of when they think of Big. So they go home, and of course Josh is like, at first, like, again, the brain of a 12-year-old, he's not thinking about like, oh, I'm gonna get laid right now. He's like, oh, let's play on the trampoline. Oh, you're sleeping over tonight? Oh, cool. I call Top Bunk. Like, he just like doesn't get the implication. Eventually he does catch on, and I don't know how I feel about the whole romance aspect.
Well, this is the controversial part of the movie.
Yeah. This is like straying into like weird anime or manga territory where there's like, a child trapped in a body of like a 300-year-old demon or something.
Yeah,
and it's like a little, it gets a little, it's kind of like straddling the line of creepy.
I mean, they kind of make lightheartedness out of statutory rape.
Yeah.
That's what the problem that's the problematic part of the movie is. If they remade the movie today,
it would not be able to be done.
That part could not be in there.
No.
Like,
again, it would turn into an episode of Law and Order SVU real quick.
Yeah, at most, like, they could leave in the kiss and that's it.
Yeah. No, but they go all the way. They
do go all the way. Oh yeah. And then the next day, Josh has got the pep in his step. He's high-fiving the janitor. Like, what happened.
Yeah.
And after that moment, he starts to become more corporate and more of a man, and he forgets that he's a kid.
Yeah. Yeah, he starts to kind of like fall into like his adult life more.
Yeah.
And
he's like going to like dinner parties with Susan.
Yeah.
He's like they possibly moved in together or not. No, they didn't move in together.
They're talking about
they're hanging out a lot.
Well, they have a discussion of like, oh, where's our relationship going? Like, is this serious? Like,
yeah.
So like they like, it becomes like, he's becoming like he's falling into his adult life basically. Like he's,
Yeah.
And it really takes his Billy coming back and saying like, hey, I found the machine, let's go. And he's like, and at first Josh is like, no, like I got too much shit to do. Like I got like meetings and I have to talk to people, and he like forgets that he's a kid. Really, he becomes an adult, and finally like Billy just like like screams at him like, like you're an idiot. Like we've been fucking, and this
The
is the
one
big F-bomb.
F-bomb in the
The
movie.
one F-bomb. And he's like, this is the whole thing we've been waiting for is so you could get back to being a kid again. Like, and don't you want to go back to your family and like all that? And like, at first Josh is like kind of blows him off, but then is like, wait a minute, like what am I doing? I am a kid. And
Yeah. Meanwhile, his poor mother this whole time, we get to see a little bit of what his mom's going through, but we don't get the rest of the family or anything else that's going
no.
on for what it does to the whole community.
Yeah,
Like,
like he's on friggin' milk cartons as a missing child. Like,
yeah. Also, how does nobody at work seem to notice that someone on the milk carton that looks like a kid version of the guy who just showed up one day in Data and now became an executive, and nobody, like, he has a fake social security number. He, like,
yeah, how did nobody run the social security number and realize, oh shit, this is fake? Like,
I mean, it's possible that it's a real social security number, but it doesn't belong to him.
exactly. Well,
So,
they would have
like,
known.
yeah, the background check was like, how bad of a background check did they do on this guy? Did they even bother?
I think
Like,
maybe they didn't bother.
maybe it was delayed and they just don't do the background check for like weeks. I don't know.
I mean, it was a different time. It wasn't like they had the internet to go look them up, but still.
Right.
Like,
So maybe you have to take it to a clerk or something.
I guess.
And that takes months. I don't really know.
But meanwhile, they already hired him, so for all they know, he could be like a friggin' evil fucking mastermind that's stealing money from the company or something. Like,
Yeah, Paul is the only one who like is questioning where he actually came from.
yeah,
And like nobody from Mattel, like the other people who know I guess the other VPs or whatever, like nobody know, like they talk to like people at other toy companies and they're like, no, nobody's heard of this guy.
well, also, Paul's kind of like cast as the villain here, but in a lot of ways,
He's the only one who like knows who's trying to figure out what's going on.
he's also kind of like a sympathetic character almost. Like he's like a tragic figure. He's like just like trying to do his job and be an executive of this toy company, and this new guy comes out of nowhere, usurps his position, and then also steals his lover, and then like also like becomes like the number one guy in the company. Like, and the guy's like, "What the like? Why?" Like,
yeah, all in like
job.
all in 6 weeks.
Yeah,
and he like this guy. We're supposed to believe that this guy's an asshole. Meanwhile, like his whole life has just been like inverted.
Yeah, exactly. Like his whole life gets like freaking torn away from him, and we're supposed to like hate him for that. And it's like, well, he's real. I guess if you're a kid and you're looking at it like, at a basic level, like, yeah, he's the villain. But like, when you watch it as an adult and you're like, oh man, I feel bad for that guy. He just got like the fucking shaft and everything.
Yeah, Paul is the victim here.
Yeah, he is.
Anyway. So I bet in the aftermath of the movie, when if he finds out what really happened, he probably has a great time after.
Yeah. Well, I guess they probably doesn't find out. They probably just like Josh just disappears one day, and they're like, oh, okay, he's gone. Good.
Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe he gets the last laugh. Who knows?
Yeah.
But yeah. Anyway, so they do eventually find out where the Zoltar machine is. And there's like a big thing, and Josh tries to tell her he tries to tell Susan what's really going on, and she like thinks he's crazy and she doesn't understand what the hell he's saying because
it sounds commitment or something, and he's making up just to get away from her.
Right. Meanwhile, they have this big presentation the next day. In the middle of the meeting, he decides that first of all, he's having trouble with the meeting. Second, he like decides that he's just gonna leave and go find the Zoltar machine. He gets in the cab and like abandons Billy, who like just happens to see him as he's getting in the cab.
And he's getting a hot dog, guys.
Yeah. Also, Billy is frequenting New York City because he's lying to his parents and telling them that he made the basketball team.
Yeah, that's true.
Which goes to show you what shitty parenting Billy has, because his parents would know that he sucks at basketball.
Well, it was the 80s.
This is true. So, and they're just giving him money. There's nobody like his dad probably like isn't like hasn't noticed that there's money missing from his emergency fund, or maybe he blamed his wife and they're having problems now. We really don't know. We don't know the ramifications of this 6 week period and how far they stretch. Anyway, then friggin' Susan leaves in the middle of this big pitch meeting where like it was supposed to be like this great revolutionary idea that Josh had of like and then they both leave. Susan follows him and he sees the Zoltar machine and he finds it and he's gonna do it and he makes the wish and then she like believes him finally and like and then she drives him home and he like he like turns into a kid in front of her
Yeah.
and then
And
he sees his mom and that's that and it's a happy ending for everyone, I guess.
yeah. It kind of was a weird ending
Yeah,
for
well,
me.
there
Like
was an alternate ending, which I think makes it worse because the alternate ending did not test well
yeah.
with the audience. But in
What was the alternate ending?
the alternate ending is Josh is at school, like I guess the next day or however long. Josh is in school, and he notices a new girl named Susan who shows up at class, and it's supposed to be implicated that she went to the Zoltar machine
Yeah.
and wished to be a kid so that she could have a romantic life with Josh and be a kid again.
See, I think
And
that would have been a better ending than what we got. I don't know why that tested poorly.
I think because it doesn't make any sense.
I think that,
Also,
the
but
ending that
also, like,
so
what happens in the aftermath of that? Does she like just go back to her parents and she's like, "Oh, hi. Somehow I'm 13 years old again, even though
well,
they probably saw each other like 2 weeks ago." And like, then what? I need you to enroll me back in school, or she goes and lives with an aunt that's senile or something. I don't know.
I mean,
And
at least it would have made more sense if she was like a kid again, like instead of like they just like leave it as it were, and then she says like, "Oh, maybe when you're in like like 10 years or whatever, like we can get back to." It's like, well, what the like? Hold
what
on a
does
minute,
that
like
mean?
yeah, like if she's first of all she still has feelings for him even though he's a kid, which is like really creepy,
Yeah.
and it's like at least if she like wished herself to be a kid again and it would like be a little bit more like less creepy and it's like okay maybe she actually really does love him and like wants to like spend her life with him and so like will sacrifice her adult life and like everything she has, her career and everything, just to like go back and like be a kid again so she could grow with him, you know. I think that would be a little bit better of an ending than what we got, because what we got was kind of like
That
the
ending
implication is
showed
like a little creepy still, like
that ending showed up on the re-release of the DVD,
yeah.
and it also like it also appeared as the ending in various countries. I think there was like the Latin American ending in New Zealand or something,
Huh.
and it may have been the when it aired on TV, but it was not the theatrical ending. So now that we've explained the film so that you don't have to watch it, the ramifications of this is crazy. So he mysteriously disappears. So like also event like there's police investigating his
Yeah.
disappearance while Josh has disappeared. The like adult Josh is posing as the as his
Kidnapper.
kidnapper.
Yeah.
So he's calling his mom and distressing the entire household.
Well, also, he writes a letter to his parents. How does he send the letter? Like, are the police like that inept? Like, they don't get the letter and like test it for fingerprints or whatever, or like to see where it came from. They just like fucking like accept. Oh, it's a letter from Josh. We'll just okay. Thanks.
We never see the police, so maybe the police just think that the mom's crazy and they ignore it
I
completely.
no, we do see the police in the beginning when they're when Billy sneaks into Josh's house to grab like stuff. We do
Well,
see the police.
I mean that's it.
Initially.
That's like the initial
Yeah,
thing
we
when
don't
they're just doing the initial questioning. Maybe after the questioning, they just write her off.
see. You know, we
Maybe Chief Wiggum is like the freaking like head police guy in charge.
Now what we need is a big spin-off movie where it follows the fucking police, like make it like a procedural cop drama of the police trying to solve the kidnapping of Josh. And they think he's just like dead or something like that. They're like about to like give up and just turn it into a cold case, and then he just shows up out of nowhere. See that
Maybe.
that would be that would be something. Let's write it.
Yeah, why not? But yeah, so there's that. There's whatever happened to his poor mother, who is going to need years of therapy for this. There's Josh, who will probably need therapy in his real adulthood
Well,
because he's gonna and like he also like he did pretty well for himself in those 6 freaking weeks, going from the gutter to an executive penthouse in the sky. So
yeah, like what if he fails at life? Like what if he never gets that good again, or like does anything like nearly as good as that? You know?
right, because the edge that he had was the mind of a child. So like, how is he gonna end up faring in the future? Like, he can't exactly go back to that company again.
Right.
Because like, what is he gonna say? Oh well, I was here like 10 years ago. Oh, you're like where probably nobody will still work there anymore.
Yeah. Who knows if Mr. McMillan will even be alive anymore, right?
Yeah, what does this do to the reputation of that company? Like, sure, like we don't know if it's publicly traded or not. If it's publicly traded, that's very bad. If
Yeah.
it's not publicly traded, it just gets around. Word gets around to the industry, and the toy titans view it as a weakness in that company. And I don't know, maybe somebody tries to acquire it or something, or maybe the company just like maybe they run with his idea, and because he's not there, they do it wrong, and it like tanks the company. Or maybe Paul ends up getting the position that he wanted. Or I don't know. Do they like does like what happens to Susan? Does she get fired because she left in the middle of a big pitch meeting? Or like do they just act like this didn't happen because they have the idea and they just give her like half they give her the credit for it, and they just allow things to just go as they would have?
Yeah.
Like it's unclear, but this clearly doesn't make her look good, so she's not going to get promoted for this.
No.
So like I don't know. Does she like keep her job anyway? It's questionable.
Yeah. Who
But if you
knows?
but if the alternate ending happens, then that doesn't matter, and that looks worse on the company. Excuse me. And now like two people suddenly go missing. I mean, the police at least would be able to connect the dots somehow that someone that like the kidnapper posing as Josh Baskin is like suddenly gone missing, but Josh Baskin has turned up in his home. What happens 10 years later when he just grows up to be who he is?
Yeah.
And then they're like, holy crap, that's the guy. Like, what if this is a giant, this becomes a
Well, they don't
giant
know because they don't know what the
police
kidnapper
search?
looks like, though. They don't know what the
That's,
kidnapper looks like. They never know.
I mean, I
Like,
mean, wouldn't there be a company record of like someone who's taken a picture of him?
well, I think the mom is really gonna be the one who needs fucking therapy when her son grows up to be the guy that was the burglar in her house 10 years before that.
Oh God, I never even thought of that. Yeah,
Yeah, that's gonna be like
yeah,
that's gonna
and then
really
he
fuck her
tries
up.
to say, yeah, because like she sees him and she freaks out, and then what if she pulls a knife on him for real?
Yeah.
Because she pulls a knife on him in the beginning, thinking that he's a burglar. So like, what if she just does that as a reaction? There's so many possible scenarios.
Yeah,
Or
everyone that's involved in
or
this is
this
gonna
is
need
the
like lots
yeah,
of
or this is the
therapy.
way that she finally like believes him,
Yeah.
where she's like, wait, I kicked you out and you were telling the truth? Oh my God, what happens to me? I'm a bad mother. Yeah, all that therapy is just going to come crashing down on this family. Somebody's going to get paid.
Yeah.
What do you even do? I mean, the toy company I'm sure will be fine, but like it'll just be a while for them to get the stank off. But like unless they're publicly traded, then that's going to hurt for a minute.
Yeah.
But I mean, I guess Mr. McMillan just kind of chalks it up to being it's the damnedest thing. I don't know what happened.
Yeah.
In the alternate version, it's just wow, they ran away together in the middle of my meeting. What the hell? Where I guess that's it, and I guess they promote Paul.
Yeah.
But in the alternate end, well, like in the non-alternate ending, what happens to Susan?
Yeah, she
Does
just goes
like
back.
does she just go back? She now is going to have years of therapy
Yeah.
to like understand what the hell actually happened. Does she like wait around for him and they have a May December relationship, or like does she like really lose it and now suddenly she like becomes like what do you do? Like does she have to register as a sex offender technically, or like
I well, she never got caught, so
no, but like assuming she goes to therapy and explains the situation, like I mean the therapist probably would think that she's like like she's like misremembering certain things. Like I have no idea. Or does like Susan get tried for like kidnapping or something?
maybe. Yeah.
Like
Maybe they
does she
figure she's
take
the kidnapper because she drops him off at his house.
yeah, like does she take the fall? She like drops him off at his house in broad daylight.
Yeah.
Like
All unanswered questions. Maybe
the
we need a big sequel.
well, funny you should mention that. According to the internet from last July of 2023, the Tom Hanks is locked into Big 2,
Oh.
which apparently he would experience the opposite of the transformation he undergoes.
Oh.
So the log line is Josh Baskin finds himself magically transformed into a child, once again experiencing the wonders and challenges of a second chance at childhood. This is from giantfreakingrobot.com. So I don't know why they would think that people would want to see this. I don't, but what do they even go from here? I mean, you can't even get
Yeah.
a lot of the people involved because the original director Penny Marshall passed away in 2018, and Robert Loggia passed away in 2015.
Yeah.
So, like,
And John Hurt also passed away recently as well. I
oh
believe
wow,
2020, I think.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what do you even do? And I don't know if like
Oh, 2017. Wow, that was a lot longer
oh
ago than I thought.
wow. Yeah, and I
Jeez.
mean I don't even know like what like I don't know if Elizabeth Perkins would do it. She was Susan, and like I don't know, is his mom even still alive?
I doubt it. Who knows?
Uh yeah, it looks like she's still alive. Yeah, she's okay, she's doing something, she's in something called the Nana Project in New Amsterdam. So, yeah, she's still around. Mercedes Rule or Ruel, I don't know how she pronounces it, but like what why would you even want to I guess Jared Rushton could come back. He is still alive doing. Oh, he according to his IMDb, he hasn't done anything since 2000. So maybe he's like out of the business. I don't really know. But yeah, what would you even do with this?
Yeah. I don't know.
Huh? The name of the motel clerk was Rocket's Red Glare. He's dead.
Huh. That was his name. What the fuck?
That was his name, Rocket's Red Glare.
Hmm. There's a guy. Apparently, speaking of weird people, got people with weird names that have died. Apparently, recently there was a New Zealand judge whose name was Michael Hardy Boys.
No.
He died.
Well, all right then. He's dead.
So the Hardy Boys are dead.
Hmm. I poked one. It was dead. Anyway, so yeah, do we want a big sequel? Is it worth to even do? Ah, like I don't know. And then like
I mean, it's really, is it worth to do any fucking sequel of a movie that came out in the 1980s? Probably not. But they're
no.
gonna do it anyway because Hollywood is out of fucking ideas and they're useless idiots. So
Yeah, these are like if you thought they were out of ideas before, think again.
it just gets worse by the year. That's probably really
Yeah.
why they want the fucking AI like to start writing movies because they don't have any ideas anymore. So it's like, oh well, someone's got to do it. AI, quick, help us,
Yeah, I
save
mean they
us.
also don't want to pay like writers for they won't want to pay for quality writers, so
Well,
like they'd rather just get all of this nonsense.
yep. And well,
It's
there you go.
so like this is why we can't have nice things, everybody.
Uh-huh.
It's I don't understand. Should like I don't even think I would watch this. Even FAO Schwartz is a zombie right now.
Exactly.
So like what would they do? Would they even have a scene where he walks into FAO Schwartz and like pretends that it's the other one? Or would he just like reminisce about the old one and they
Who
would show a
knows?
flashback because they have no ideas? Would this just be like Coming to America 2, which was basically a clip show where they just added things for no reason? Like
Yeah.
I don't want this.
Nobody does.
Just leave this alone. I don't see how this would make any money. Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, Big has its own small problems. I think the only problem is just really the love interest angle, and only really because of the sex thing. I think if it was just the kiss or no kiss and there was just like a tension between them, but nothing is acted upon in the movie, then like I think it'd be fine by today's standards. But like otherwise, it's a pretty solid movie, minus the
Yeah.
plot holes. But like
Yeah,
it's still
it's not a terrible movie. I mean,
no.
it's
We've made it seem like it's this abomination, but it's a good movie.
yeah. I mean, it's not like my favorite. I wouldn't like watch it continuously, but it's not bad.
Yeah, I know somebody who it's their favorite movie, but it's a good movie.
Yeah.
So I will not throw shade, but it does have the complicated stuff,
Yeah.
and I don't want a sequel to this thing.
No. Doesn't need one. They'll do it anyway, but
Yeah, they will. And then if that makes money somehow, then Big 3 will come out.
oh god.
Or maybe they'll make Big 2. Maybe Warner will make Big 2 and then David Zaslav will decide that he's just going to cancel it for the tax write-off.
You know what? Maybe they should make Big 2 so we could fucking review it and say how bad it is.
I don't want to watch it. So maybe
That'll be
they
a
just
true why
won't.
does this exist?
Ugh, maybe they won't. I would rather see the twin sequel triplets
We
than
haven't had a
this.
true why does this exist in a while, probably since Thanksgiving 2 or 3
No, you're
rather.
right. Yes.
So that would be it would be a good one.
Hmm, maybe. I don't know. But speaking of our show, I think we've reached the end of the line here on Big. And like I said, good movie, just has some very interesting plot holes. What really happens next that they don't show you? And like I would rather like to see how it actually played out. Like I'd like to see some like side quests basically of what else was really going on while like Tom Hanks was having the time of his life. Um, but we don't have that. Instead, we'll possibly get whatever nonsense Big 2 is. But yeah, thanks for everybody for checking out the show. If you've stuck around long enough, and we appreciate you just tuning in and doing all the things and interacting with YouTube's algorithms and like just passing the show along. We really appreciate it, and we hope that you're doing okay. Just wishing you a happy new year from the podcast. Expect some things. Hopefully, I get better by then. But we plan on doing some redos of some episodes that we did in the past that we did not like the end result. So we're gonna be redoing some of them because we didn't like the audio or anything. So stay tuned for that. And we've just got a bunch of other ideas that we've got kicking around. So you know, once again, this has been Why Does This Exist? I've been Chris.
And I've been Rob.
And remember, question everything.
Good night, everybody.